bringing in another week smooth.
Right? As we were
Yes.
dancing, I was thinking about the African proverb, hard times required furious dancing. But I was like, I
Yes.
think I'm switching that. Yes, hard times require smooth jazz dancing.
I have been
Just
listening
to
to some smooth jazz. Yeah.
settle the nervous system down.
Right? Really? No, really. It's
Right?
a thing.
How are you, my friend?
Grateful. And that's where I've been. We've been talking about how much has been going on. And that's what I've been working on, staying centered on is
Right?
gratitude. What about you?
I'm good. Before I get to me, though, for our listeners
Mhm.
that are watching, we just
Mhm.
have to shout out for our listeners that are listening. You're missing Shannon's new hairdo, which is
What do you think?
fabulous.
Thank you.
Fabulous. I just have to give a shout out to it.
Shout out to Lock
Yeah.
Nation and the
Right?
Retwisters, okay? Riri in Atlantic City. Yes. Hopefully she'll come on and meet you guys one day. We'll talk
All
about
right,
it.
Riri. Thank you. Good
Yeah.
job. That's
Yes.
fabulous.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
You're asking how I'm
I
okay.
am.
The world's on
Yeah.
fire
Yeah.
and trying to figure out, here in Atlanta, we're having big airport delays. We're having ice showing up at our airport. So
Mm.
we could do a whole show on that, but we're
We could.
not.
Not this week.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Um so I have a retreat in Texas this weekend and I'm gonna drive instead of fly. I
Yeah.
just because I'm getting all the news out of Atlanta. And one of
Mhm.
my friends, I mean, she was covered.
Yeah.
She got in there and through there in 45 minutes. That's only one out of
Nice.
all the hundreds I'm hearing that 4-hour delay. So this one
Wow.
guy, I just have to tell you,
Yeah, tell
he
me.
was in line at the South
Okay.
Terminal,
Mhm.
3 hours in line. They
Mm.
closed it. They closed the security line and wanted to put that whole group at the back of another line,
Mhm.
which would have been another 3 hours. So he
Ooh.
just went home and rebooked.
Ooh.
But
Oof.
when you start adding in, I'm an hour from
Yeah.
the airport. And
Yeah.
then if there's a possibility of standing in line for which who wants to I mean, no. I mean, am I gonna tote a chair through
Mm.
TSA security?
Now I'm
Like,
thinking about the
bring my
fees. What's the fee? Where is the chair going, right?
right? I know, like, my little camping chair, like, do one of those telescopic ones, like, I don't have room
Nice.
in my bag for that, but I'd be thinking
Mm.
about it if you're standing in I mean, where's the accessibility in that? I mean, I
That
guess
makes sense.
folks that have accessibility and do wheelchairs probably, they're sitting, so at least there's that. I've
Mhm.
just been thinking about those folks this week because
Yeah.
I travel often and, whew, yeah,
That makes perfect
and
sense.
so I was researching as I do when things
Mhm.
like this happen, and
Yes.
I was not aware that
Mm.
it was written into the Heritage Project's Project 2025 about privatizing TSA. And
Hmm.
so this was I can't quote what page it was on. I had looked it up and done all that, but it's just fascinating that how everything's connected. And, as we're getting ready for midterms and we're getting ready for like I think we have to be paying attention. And
Absolutely.
Cecile and I, one of our women connect in wisdom, we were having a conversation about the upcoming midterms, and
Mm.
we've decided what our strategy is going to be, besides
Mhm.
getting people out to the polls, is really encouraging people to vote early and in
Mm.
person
Mm.
because they're trying to say that mail in ballots are invalid and they're trying to mess with the post office about the postmark date. So I think the safest thing for folks is going to be to go early and in person.
Okay.
Um,
Well, spread the
and
word.
yeah, and just really get our friends to the polls and especially if they're folks that might be intimidated that we go with them. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Mm.
such a heavy topic to talk about. Sorry, that's what's been on my brain all
It's
week. Like I
okay. You know where I'm at with it. Why apologize? It's not your fault. That's why I'm excited that we do Women Connected in Wisdom. And today
Mhm,
we're talking about restoring your light. So
mhm.
yes, these things are happening. And this is, how we center ourselves this week on spiritual wellness so that we can
Right?
maintain our wellness as we keep stepping forward incrementally.
I love it. Let's do our
Yeah.
official welcome and kick this show off, shall we?
Okay. Okay.
Let's
Yes.
do
Hey,
it.
y'all. I'm Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur, an Amazon bestselling publisher, author, and all natural product manufacturer. I'm a champion for your natural self care, sustainable business care, and overall intentional wellness.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, best-selling author and publisher, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Yes, together we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the founders of Women Connected in Wisdom Community.
And we like to get together every week for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. How do we do it? And one of the ways we do it is we bring on expert guests to help ask questions and
Yeah.
talk about their resources and how they're doing it in the world.
Mhm. Y'all know how it is, you need a recipe, you text people. I started texting a couple of people. Let me see what the different ingredients are and decide what I wanna do, and that's kinda how we do it. We bring on the experts to talk to you guys, so they'll, share their stories and what they've been through and why they found all their resources to help them, but I'm super excited about this conversation.
Okay, I love the recipe analogy, so we have to make a
Eh,
little left turn before we get
okay.
to what have you been cooking this week? Because I know you are a phenomenal cook.
I appreciate you. And it's been changing, so this week actually I made biscuits, but not from scratch, but we made biscuits for breakfast, right? So, um biscuits, and this week we did a oven roasted sausage with tortellinis and shells in a white wine butter sauce.
Mm.
Mhm. Mhm.
Alright,
So a little
alright.
different, but with the work schedule and everything, I told you I was prepping at night, then
Yeah.
waking up in the morning before work, like
Mhm.
the stock from scratch to the soup ended up being 3 to 5 days of making it. So I'm still working on reworking the menu. What about you? What have
Mm.
you been working on?
Oh, I have been eating out of the freezer from things I cooked before.
Nice.
I've been working so much that I haven't
Okay.
really been cooking new.
Did you have
Um,
some tortilla soup in there? I was thinking about your
oh,
tortilla
I had
soup.
turkey tortilla soup. That's my
Nice.
from scratch. So,
Yeah.
that's one of the recipes we trade as a family. You said
Mm,
biscuits. So my
mhm,
nanny's snow biscuits and my nanny's yeast
mhm,
rolls are
mhm.
ones that go back and forth along the family text, and my
Right.
dad's chicken or turkey tortilla soup. So yeah,
Mhm.
that was actually one of the meals I had this week because I
Yeah.
needed a little comfort with all the pollen in Atlanta.
My goodness, yes, and it's been colder up here, so I'm looking forward to it, but I don't have to deal with it like you do, so I hope that
Oh,
brought you comfort.
it did. It always
Yeah.
does. My dad's, tortilla soup is magic. So
Mm.
today we are talking about spiritual wellness. Are you ready for me to read this definition?
Yes, I am.
Let's do it. Spiritual wellness allows us to be in tune with our spiritual selves. This realm of wellness lets us find meaning in life events and define our individual purpose. It can be defined through various factors, including religious faith, values, ethics, and morals. Regardless of whether you believe in a particular religious faith, there is always something to be learned about how you see yourself in the world. Mm.
Yes. Are you okay if I go ahead and read our guest's bio
More
so we
than
can.
okay. I am so
Yes.
ready to get her on stage.
Yes. Okay, y'all. Today we are talking to Niambi Jaha-Echols. She's an author, spiritual midwife, thought leader, soulful spiritual alchemist, and certified trauma sensitive heart math practitioner. For over 3 decades, she served as a nationally recognized transformation advocate, apprenticing with indigenous shamans, spiritual teachers, somatic and master shadow work practitioners to help individuals and organizations navigate the deeper waters of healing, authenticity, and inclusive leadership. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you, thank you.
Of
Oh, it
course.
was wonderful. I'm right
So
in
you're
between both of you. So you're up north and
right,
you're south, and I'm in North Carolina right in the middle.
Mm,
right. Now, are y'all having the pollen too? Are you
Yes,
having the
not
yellow
as
pine pollen?
it's coming. I mean, I know
Okay,
you've probably got more blooms than we do right now. And
right.
so we're just before that. So it's
Probably about a week
not
ahead of
the
you.
yeah, you're
right.
about a week ahead. It's
Yeah.
coming. It's
It
guaranteed.
makes
Oh, yeah.
sense.
We're in the if you owned a black car, it's now yellow stage, and,
Yes.
Okay.
if there where when the rain comes, there's rivers of yellow
Ooh.
pollen washing down our gutter.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. And if you own a white car, you now have a yellow-green car. So, yeah.
Absolutely, the South in the springtime, but I wouldn't trade it because my azaleas are blooming, my daffodils are blooming, my dogwoods are blooming, our
Oh, that's
forsythia's
beautiful.
blooming, like, it is it's magic, and all the birds are singing and building a nest, and it when I go outside at dawn in the morning, and take a deep breath, before I look at the news, before I do anything, I can pretend that things are okay.
Yeah.
Like, and they
Yeah.
are, right? They
Yeah.
are on this one hand. And so that's one of my wellness practices is to go
Mhm.
but it has been funny the last couple of days because when you go outside, there's those little puffs of pollen dust and you don't miss it, do you, Shannon?
No. No, I don't, and thankfully, I haven't had to fight with the pollen, so no matter the season, I'm still looking at the trees and looking at the birds and everything, but my
Mhm.
boo, we have those conversations. Yeah, yeah.
Niambi, I am so excited to have this conversation today. And what we didn't talk about in your bio is you're an author and you have some new babies that are in the world. So
Ooh.
I want you to tell our listeners about them, and then we're going to see where this conversation takes us.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, originally, probably about 20 years ago, I wrote a book called Project Butterfly, and with it, it had a companion book, the workbook, and then I wrote a book called Inspiring the Souls of Our Girls because that was the work that I was doing at that time, really supporting inner city girls in Chicago. And then, right before the whole George Floyd thing, before we went on lockdown and everything, I wrote a book called What Color Is Your Soul? Healing the Illusions of Our Separateness. And then George Floyd and that whole thing happened. And then before I could really promote that book, COVID happened, which shut it all, you know, you all were there, so you know what happened. And so then I wrote, coming out of that, when I realized that people were feeling depleted and strained and burned out and all of that. So I wrote this little prayer book called Restoring the Light. And I think in that interim, that's when I connected with you through WinCall um and then since then I have written 2 more books where they're siblings. One is called and it just literally got released a couple of days ago, is The Healing We Avoid, What Our Triggers Are Trying to Teach Us. And in the fall, there's another one coming called The Governance is Ceremony. So I am, as my, sister friend Marie calls me, fertile myrtle. I'm always pregnant with a book. So so
Yes.
but that's
You
my love
know,
language, and that's how I express myself, so and that's what I came here to do, is to bring this knowledge, so I feel very much in alignment with that.
I
Mm,
love this. As authors and publishers, we always ask our authors, like, what put you on the path to
mhm,
writing? Like, what sparked this for you?
Hmm. I think it's the way that spiritually I am like clairaudient, so I hear, and so it's easy to write. So I always think of writing as a collaboration. It's not just me sitting down and trying. If I tried to write a book by myself, it would be very hard. Um, but when spirit hits, then I know that it's time to collaborate on something. And when I'm in that zone, it flows. At one time in my life, I was helping people to self-publish books because I was working for a printer at that time. When they had the old four color presses, and people would come in and they would bring their manuscript and this kind of word document, and it would look and they wanted to make it into a book, and it would look homemade, and, it was just like, that's the biggest compliment a self-publisher can have is like just like when you make clothes, if you are a tailor and you make clothes, the highest compliment is, "Where did you buy that?" Because it doesn't look homemade. But when you have a book and you don't have the ISBN number, you don't have people will know, "Oh, you made this, didn't you?" And so I started taking on clients and helping them to craft their books, not necessarily writing. And so then I started this business of being a publishing midwife in the sense, because I believe that you really birthing a book is, I mean, having a book is like birthing a baby. You have a divine spark, and it is not something that you have to, that you should be pregnant with forever. There is a gestation period, because if you carry an idea too long, you'll either miscarry it, abort it, or it won't come out right because you passed that season. So my thought is that everybody should have the opportunity to bring a book from beginning and middle to end. That is a good, and so I tried the process myself with with my book, and the first book that I did it in 9 months. So, it was and so I expect that process now every time I write a book, that I'm not pregnant with it for long term. And so
Right.
because I'm conspiring with the divine, there's the saying, "Who's your baby daddy?" Well, spirit is my baby daddy. So it should supply everything that I need for getting this project done, and it has not failed. So
Mm,
that's, how it's been for me, and I help other people when I can, when I'm not pregnant myself, to
I
support
love
them
that.
in getting the process done, and it's been working.
Right, getting folks' voices out there. That's why we created Women Connected in Wisdom, is to
Yes.
uplift women's voices, and whether that's in podcast form and voice or print or like, it's just so important, I think now more than ever, right?
Now
When
more than
before we
ever.
came on, you were talking about, will you hold up your book so folks that are watching
Which
can
one?
see the cover? Well,
I've
go
got
go go. Let's see both of them, both of your latest
Okay,
ones.
so this
Yes.
is Restoring the Light.
Restoring the Light. Oh,
It's
that's a
beautiful. Okay,
beautiful
so I've got
cover.
her right here, and it's a
Yes.
prayer. And I can tell you the story of how that came about.
Yeah.
And then the latest one is the healing we avoid.
What
And
Mhm.
our
so
triggers are trying to look at that chrysalis on
what our
their
triggers
book.
are trying to teach us. And she has a twin, but her, like I said earlier, her twin is still in the book hospital NICU, so she's still getting formatted, but she'll be out hopefully next week.
Right.
But the
And that
whole
one's for
Mhm.
restoring the light,
organization.
yeah, that's
Okay.
it's similar to the original book, but it just has some tonality around, organizational speak. So it's the same book, but it just has an extra chapter in each, an extra section in each chapter, speaking specifically to organizations. And the reason that I wanted to do that was because that's where we most get activated and triggered, is at work
Mm.
with the people that we work with. So we have to figure out a way to met- whatever we don't metabolize, it metastasizes and it becomes part of the culture. And so if we don't have a shared language on how to do it without shame, because most of the time we think that we have to uncover all of this stuff and then it just spirals us into shame. And so the book at first, people go, "Oh, my triggers," and but it's not a book of shame. It's a book of helping you to understand what's happening. It's just like we've in the last, I'd say 5 to 7 years, we've got this new lexicon of terms, trauma response and triggers and activated and we're um, dysregulated. And so we've got all of these things. And so we say them, but what do we do with them? It's just like to me, they're just signals. It's like if you're driving your car and the 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 gas light comes on, it's not it's a signal that you need to do something. It's just telling you that it's for information. And so if we could use our triggers as just information, they're not trying to shame us. They're trying to give you information about something you need to look at or something you need to heal, something you need to revisit, something that's blocking you in some way. So just wanted to give some tools for people so they don't spiral into shame.
Mm, I love that. And our listeners love like practical resources. So I'm going to ask this
Mhm.
question. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but say you're at work, right?
Mhm.
And this
Yeah.
trigger, your light
Mhm.
comes on to say, "Oh, warning, warning."
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
what's in the book or what would you recommend as a coach is your first step in that situation?
The first step in that situation is to notice the first ripple. It's like your body is going to tell you something. And if you can catch that ripple before you respond, so it really is about paying attention to what's happening in the body. Am I revisiting? Has my body gone back in time? So am I responding to this in its present form, or is this Memorex? Is this a repeat of something? So I'm responding to this person who was really my mother or who was really something else. So there's a lot more heat behind it. So the first thing is to pause, get back in your body, get back in the present moment, and then see, is this true? What is really happening? Because a lot of times when we get activated, what happens is we fill in the blank. Somebody sends us an email, somebody says something. And rather than pause, we automatically go to, oh, they must be bad or they're disrespecting me or something. We make up a story because we don't know how to sit in the pause. We don't know how to sit in the silence. And that's human because, what happens that there is, psychologists will tell you there's a thing called cognitive closure. So when we don't know something, we can't sit in the unknown. It's very uncomfortable for us to sit in the unknown. Just like if my son doesn't call me, that was him trying to call earlier. But if he doesn't call me, and I'm expecting his call and I can't get a hold of him, I don't go to the highest possibility. I go to my greatest fear. And most people, okay, I got to check the hospitals. I got to check this. I got to, call around and see, is he okay? I go into my deepest fear. And that's just most people. When in that silence, they go to the fear. If somebody if you're in a relationship and somebody doesn't text you back or call you back right away, or they must be mad, or they're ignoring me, or they're, you hyperventilating about something that might not even have anything to do with you. But it's that pause.
Right? I think that's so true. I've had to really have those conversations with my friends because I keep all my notifications off, and they'll be like,
Mhm.
"Did you get my" they finally have learned to ask me, "Did you get my voicemail?" "No, I
Yes.
didn't." Like, I don't know, instead of making up the stories, because they were like, "I guess you're not talking to me." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, I didn't even see
Right.
it."
Right.
And so
It-
but it is I think it's
yeah.
very normal, and,
Mhm.
I know I've had to work on that line of thought because I always say I come from a line of worriers. Like, I come from
Mhm.
people that if you didn't check in when you were supposed to check in, same thing. They went to
Yeah.
and I've had to consciously work on that, to not go to
Yeah.
that greatest fear, to say,
Yeah.
"Okay," you know,
Yes. And then when you
what were
when you notice what the fear, what am I making up a story? What is true in this moment? What is true in this moment? The truth is my heart is palpitating, but what does that mean? Okay, that means I'm either scared, I'm angry, there's a reason for it. And then what is that? Well, I feel like I'm being disrespected, or I feel like I'm not being heard, or they just crossed the boundary. There's always a reason, but most of the time we react before we give ourselves time to respond. And so it's in that breath, in that pause, that you can make the decision to either react or respond. And just in those couple of minutes puts you back in empowerment because, mm, you know, there's a lot of times we'll say we'll react and then we'll say, I don't know what happened. It's almost like anger overcomes us and then we kind of black out. We don't know what, I don't know what happened. Well, if you reel it back a little bit, it in that first ripple, then you can realize what's happening and it slows the process down so that you're not taken over by what is set up in you to protect you. It's an old protector. It was something maybe you set up when you were 5 years old or 10 years old. It's an old protector that is now outdated. It doesn't match what you're meeting right now. So you've got to update your system. You've got to update those things so that it can meet you where you are in the present. So that's a lot of what happens in triggers and the healing we avoid. And I think we've avoided it so long because we didn't have tools. And so, and in our community, therapy was not something that was socially acceptable until recently, you know?
Well, I also think, and Shannon, I see you about to say something, your Microsoft friend. I also see that it's been a lot. Like, you said, since the pandemic, really, like, it just feels like wave after wave. It's like,
Mhm,
can we stand up and breathe, right?
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to regulate yourself in a dysregulated society.
good way to say it.
Oof, that's a very good way to say it, you know? And what I've seen talked about alongside all these other words that you were saying that have come up in the last 5 years is the question of self-care, right? So,
Mhm,
we talked a
mhm,
little bit about how to give ourselves a moment in the pause, and I'm still working on creating a little more space. You gotta need a little elevator on the pause, I feel like sometimes I'm good at it, and sometimes I don't like you said, I don't even feel like I skip it, and then I look back and say, "Oh, I didn't
mhm,
put that part in there, right?
mhm,
But when we talk about self-care, can we go to what you share on your website about, um, what does it mean for it to be embodied instead of performative,
mhm,
right? Because a lot of this, we might be thinking about the people or the places that make us upset, but if it's not about them and it's about us in those moments, what I found is, okay, if I do end up reacting instead of responding, I need to pour into myself. So
mhm.
how can that be
Absolutely.
embodied instead of for other people?
Absolutely. And one thing about the new book, just to tell you, it's not just theoretical. I do give
Mm,
practical at practices in every I don't give you something and just say, okay, there how you got to go figure it out. I actually literally
right.
give you exercises and practices that you can use. Part of your question about embodiment is that the reason that we feel so stressed out is because we are dehydrated most of the time. We're trying to solve problems. We're trying to be in this dysregulated world that has our nervous systems it's a nervous system itself that is
Mhm.
just off the chains, meaning and you can't avoid it because if you have social media, um, things will come and assault you unprovoked. You could be, on, a happy, get a whole
Yep,
bunch of uh, recipes and people making food, and then all of a sudden this assaultive
information.
information comes up that you weren't
Yes.
asking for, you weren't seeking, and it sought you, and it just throws you completely off
Mhm.
in a very, it's assaultive way. So a lot of that is it hits us because we are dehydrated. We
Mm,
walk around dehydrated most of the time. It's like, and it's not just physical dehydration, it is intellectual dehydration, it's emotional dehydration, and most of all, is spiritual dehydration. We're just dehydrated. And so when you are in a dehydrated state, just like if you were dehydrated and out in the desert somewhere, you would be more susceptible to mirages, to things that aren't real, to
right.
and it's more of a fearful state because you're more susceptible to illusions and not clarity. Because what we need, what water gives us, it when our water is clean, it gives us clarity. And so how you embody that is by making sure that that you are not walking around dehydrated because you can't do anything in a state of dehydration. And that's what many times many of us walk around dehydrated. And the key is that with dehydration, something really important. Sometimes, we always carry around our symbolic water bottles. When I ask people, do you have water? Yeah, I got it right here. But are you
Right,
drinking
right.
it?
Mhm.
And what happens, Shannon, when you get dehydrated, when you get severely dehydrated, I mean, I'm talking really dehydrated, the last thing you want is what? Water. That's the one thing you need, but you're so dehydrated that the one thing that you need, the one life-giving thing that you need to sustain you for your cells, for your body function, is the one thing that will make you gag if you try to drink it when you get severely dehydrated. And so what happens.
Hey, y'all, this is a great place to take a break, take a deep breath, and hear from our awesome sponsors that make Women Connected in Wisdom podcast possible. Shannon, we are so grateful that Shayla Glow is the sponsor of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And I wanted to take this moment to ask you, when you think about the people who use Shayla Glow, who are we talking about?
That's a good question. I think about three groups really. One, the group that's removing hair, right? So whether you're using laser hair removal, waxing, shaving, you got to make sure that you're putting back what you're taking out. The second group, I think about those with dry skin and the problems that that might cause, right? The scars, itching, burning, whatever the situation is, you definitely need all three steps, right? The exfoliation, making sure you're taking the dead skin cells off, the oil, putting in the moisture, and then the shea butter with the aloe, sealing it, helping you heal. Those things help both groups, right? And third, for the third group is those with chronic illness. The story is personally from cancer and different diseases that our population is dealing with on a daily basis throughout families as individuals. So I'm thinking about my mom and my grandmother and those around me with the same generational ties, right? And what positive, healthy habits we can start to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness, especially because the skin is like the cape, the exterior, the shield for your immune system. So with COVID, we have to be intentional about covering ourselves. And those are the groups I think about.
I love it. And you know what else I love about your product? It's all natural, handmade,
Yes.
and it smells great, y'all. So,
Yes, esthetician
yay.
tested. Yes, esthetician tested and approved. Yes. Yes. What about you? When you think about your company, what groups of people do you think about?
Well, I work with individual coaching clients, I work in community classes, and with corporate teams. And with all of them, I use a strength-based, embodied approach to help folks connect with themselves and access joy, reduce burnout, and build resilience. Especially during these times, I think we need it. I think we need all the hashtag partnership power we can get.
Yes.
And so what happens is then you get so dehydrated that you have to go to a hospital or some kind of clinic, and they don't just flood you with 8 gallons of water. They don't just, okay, you're dehydrated, let me fill all your cells up at once. What they do is they hook you up to an IV and they drip it in. They drip the saline into your system, and you can be there for an hour, 2 hours. But the longer you sit in stillness, and your cells are being pumped in and pumped up, and it takes that amount of time. And so most of us, when we are in a state of dehydration spiritually, we know what would help. We know prayer would help, but we're so dehydrated, we don't want to pray. We know that doing our journal, writing in our journal, we got these beautiful journals, but we're so dehydrated that we can't even open our journal. We know that reading good book, listening to music and those kinds of things will support us, but we're so dehydrated that we don't even want to do it. It's just like when you stop exercising. Physically your body needs exercise, but when you get out of rhythm with it, it's like, oh, I know I should go to the gym. I got this expensive gym membership, but I'll go tomorrow. I'll go tomorrow. I'll go tomorrow. I'll do some stretches tomorrow. I'll start on Monday. And it never
Right.
comes because you're dehydrated. And so just like when you get physically dehydrated, I think the key and it's worked for me and for people that I coach, is to look for the drips. Look for the drips.
Mhm.
Drips of water
Mm.
will fill a bucket.
That's
So
true.
instead of when you are spiritually dehydrated, don't make a big deal that, okay, and so what it does is then you go into shame. So instead of going
Mhm.
into shame, go into, you know what, I'm doing these dishes right now and I can say a prayer. That's a drip. When I go to the grocery store, instead of parking right in the front of the store, I am going to walk just a few more paces and that'll get my exercise. That's a drip. So if we pay attention to the drips, to me, that's how you embody, that's how we fill ourselves up with ourselves. Because most of us are pouring from an empty cup. We are dehydrated and still trying to feed the people. And we have nothing to give
Mhm.
because we are so dehydrated.
I hear what you're saying. And I love that because I do a really good job at keeping the stuff on the checklist and having the routine in the morning. And then if I get off and I come
Mhm,
back, it could be a lot, right? And what I
mhm,
think about sometimes, especially with the podcast, is okay, how are the young mothers going to do this? How are they,
mhm,
how are all, no matter what your age is, if you're still parenting, you're actively parenting, how are you going to do what I'm doing? Now, everybody doesn't have to do what I do. What I do might not work for somebody else. So it's not the same. But instead
mhm,
of what could be like, I don't know how else to say it outside of manic in this big pour because you notice that you've been dehydrated. I really like what you're saying about the drips. And it reminds me of how we talk about incremental steps and noticing the
mhm,
joy. And
mhm.
last week we were talking about micro dosing joy. So last week I was going outside and playing. That helped with the drip a little
Mhm.
bit. So I
Mhm.
really like that because it's sustainable and it's easier to do
Yeah.
and it's not even something that you have to necessarily do. You can start by realizing.
Mhm. Just being aware, putting your attention
Yeah.
on it. And you don't have to change anything. Just be intentional
Wow.
about what you're doing. Every time you take a sip of water, you say a prayer of thanks, and that covers the physical and the spiritual right there.
I like
Mhm. I like stabbing.
that. Agreed.
I like habit stacking.
Yes, I could.
But
That is
and giving
so
yourself
good.
grace, giving yourself grace
Mhm.
Yes.
because we are in a dysregulated world, a
Mhm.
society. And the only thing that is really regulated, and that's why we're always encouraged to go out in nature because that system can hold the dysregulation that's in society. But if you go and connect with nature, that's getting back to the truth. That's why we feel good when we're in nature because
Mm.
nature is regulated. It is regulated and it will help regulate you. Just by putting your feet on the ground can help regulate.
I
So
bet that
it's
is.
it's yeah, and didn't it make a difference?
It did.
Right? Well,
Mhm,
and listening to the birds sing is
mhm,
that's been as old as time, that when the birds are
mm,
singing, there's not a predator nearby, like that
yes.
things are well, right?
Mhm,
I always know when a hawk or an owl enters my yard because
mhm,
everything gets really quiet.
quiet.
That's
I
really
wanted to ask
interesting.
you, Niambi, you said in your bio that you are a master shadow work practitioner. And I am just curious with that
Mhm,
training and what's going on currently in the United States, what wisdom you have for us around this
mhm.
time that we are living in.
Oh, that's a big one. I think that's what I wrote the book, The Healing We Avoid, because everybody is triggered and activated right now. And if you can and really what triggers are, they're helping that they're reminders of past trauma, they're reminders of things that have happened in the past. And most of us are not in danger right in this very moment. And so when we can bring ourselves back to presence and the breath, which is the gift of every time you remember that you're breathing, you are back present, that you are safe and this is not happening. And we can from that place of presence, then we can send out a better vibration out into the world to those that are suffering. But if our energy is frenetic and chaotic and in fear, unintentionally, that's what we're sending out as well. We're sending more of that vibration out. So it's not and unhooking those parts of our brain that says that we've all been conditioned. I'm a good Catholic school girl. I grew up in Catholic school. And so anything that I do for myself, I was drilled about being selfish, about serving. Make sure you're serving, blah, blah, blah. And don't be selfish. And what I realized that usually when people have called me selfish or said that, it was they were trying to manipulate me. They wanted me to do something that they were trying to cross a boundary. And so they were telling me that I was selfish as a way to get me to do something that I had already set a boundary for. And so now I have reframed that within myself. Getting back to what you said, Shannon, about self-care is how do I reframe that? So when somebody tells me that, you know, instead of saying selfish, they say, "Oh, you're so full of yourself." And I said, "Thank you." Because I want to be full of me. I'd rather be full of me than full of you. So the more full I am of me, of my divine sourced me, then the more I can help regulate and stand and hold space for other people. And in my regulation, I can help regulate other people in that. But when I'm dysregulated, it's a ripple effect, you know? So it is helping us to remember who we are, that we are not just physical beings. We are literally, science will tell us that we are made up of stardust. That's not metaphorical. That is literal. Everything that the stars that are inside our body is the same thing that stars are made up. And so when you feel like you are, for restoring the light, it is just remembering who you are. It's just remembering. We've forgotten. It's like being in that desert with a mirage. You've forgotten who you are. And that's
So
why go ahead.
please, no. Well, what I was going to ask you is to paint the new picture for people who
Mhm,
just see the mirage, right? And are so
mhm.
removed from the stardust. When you say remember who you are, where do you go?
Well, I'm going to give you a kind of a framework for, one of the book, Restoring the Light. So how do you restore the light? So let's get
Mhm.
just a quick, I love, um, how do you use the word? So what could restore break down to? So what does the R stand for? The R in restore could stand for remember who you are. When you think of restore, just remember not your roles, not your responsibilities, but your true essence of who you are. Because many people get burned out not because they're weak, they get burned out because they've forgotten who they are underneath the giving. They think that they're their role, and so then they have to perform. And you don't have to perform. That's what you were asking about embodying. You've forgotten who you are. And that's why the whole imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a mirage in the desert. You have
Right.
forgotten who you are.
Mhm.
So that's the R. The E is examine what drains your light. So light gets dim when the energy is leaking out unnoticed, just like when you plug too many things in, you can get, the either blow out a fuse or something. So you've got
Right.
to see where is your energy being drained? And then ask yourself the question, you know, I paid for this with my energy. Was it reciprocal? You know, was it worth the cost that I paid? I paid my energy for this. Was this worth it? Did I get cheated? Because my
I'm with
energy is currency. Your energy is
you.
currency. That's all you have. So that's the E. The S is for sit still long enough to hear yourself. most of the time, because stillness restores clarity, most of the time we are sitting with other people's information. And if we can just sit long enough to hear ourselves, you know, when we move into a space of, in the book, I talk about the magician energy and all of that. When we go into the space of, I don't know, and we're always looking for someone else to inform us of what to do, you just sit long enough. You're the greatest facilitator. You know what your mission is, but you got to quiet the noise and hydrate so you can hear. So you can hear. So the T in restore is tell the truth, even gently, because truth telling really does restore power. Most of us will require other people to tell the truth, and we lie to ourselves. We say yes when we really want to say no. We agree with things that we really don't. We do things to be people pleasing and all of these things. So if we can be in truth with ourselves, that will help restore the power. That will restore our light. But we don't tell ourselves the truth. Most of us have a very toxic relationship with ourselves. We talk to ourselves in all kinds of ways that we would never allow somebody that we loved to say those kinds of things to ourselves. Just mean girls to ourselves, you know? So that's the T. The O would be offer yourself compassion. That speaks to what I just said. Most people are hardest on themselves. So restoring your light requires kindness to yourself, not punishment. So instead of saying, what's wrong with me? Maybe the question is, what do I need? Not what's wrong with me. What do I need? What happened and what do I need right now? The R is to reconnect to purpose, because purpose isn't always about a job. It's about how you show up. So your purpose, people are always looking to find the purpose. It's usually hidden in those things that break our heart or make us feel most alive. That's usually where the seedling of our purpose lies. If it's breaking your heart and it's like, I gotta do something, it's usually a seedling in there that's a pull to your heart and your purpose. And lastly, that last E of restore is to engage in community, because we are not built to be in silo. We are not built to be our only little island, because light grows in connection, in community. And so we've got to, and we mirror each other. So you need community in order to grow. When we want to punish somebody, the punishment that our society has found for people is, what do? Even when you lock them up in prison,
And
that's
put
not
them in
good enough.
isolation.
Put
They
them in
put them in
isolation.
solitary confinement. Yep.
Absolutely. Because that's what our greatest need is, to belong and to be in community with others that see us, that see who we are and validate and witness our brilliance. That's what we yearn for.
Mm. Oh, that is so good.
Thank you so much for sharing.
You are so welcome. You're so
Yeah, we
welcome.
talk about a lot of this, and it sounds simple, and some things are simple to say and difficult to do,
Mhm, mhm.
so some of them even sound similar, like when we talk about, um, rhythms and routines in the morning, it might be things that people may feel like are interchangeable. But what I
Mhm,
know from the journey
mhm.
being a publisher, helping women through business and helping women and students through transitions and all these different things is that they're all absolutely necessary. And I love how you
Mhm.
put the community, engaging in community after remembering who you are and making sure that
Mhm.
you are okay as an individual. And then you can come from
Absolutely,
a centered, regulated place when you are intentional about what you're
absolutely,
putting out there.
absolutely, because then you're not giving from your pain, you're giving from your power.
Right.
You're giving from your power. So you're showing up out of the abundance of who you are, not out of the lack and the need.
It's so
you
important.
know? It is. So stay hydrated. Stay hydrated.
I was just thinking about that when you said it, because we often talk about our water bottles, or we talk about, are you hydrated? But I loved what you said. You may be carrying it around, but not taking time to take a sip.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
that incremental step, or that little glimmer, or that little sip of what hydrates us during these times, I
Yes.
think is
It's the
so
drips.
important.
It's the
The drip,
drips. Stay
the drip.
with the drips. Don't discount the drips. They're happening
Mhm.
all the time. Anytime you breathe, that's a drip because you're connecting to it's an indication that you are alive and
Yeah.
that you are
Mhm.
sourced. You are sourced and you're okay
Mhm.
in this moment,
Yeah.
no matter what the circumstance is. No matter what the circumstance is,
Right.
you're okay.
I love how you have
You're
these chrysalis circles for the young
mhm,
ladies, right? And how you
mhm,
speak to the power of womanhood. With us talking
mhm.
about how difficult and hard on ourselves we can be, can you speak a little bit to what you were saying earlier about the divinity that we have and the power of womanhood to continue to build out this picture for some of our ladies and our listeners if they need some help around this?
Well, as a woman, you know that there's no other way onto the planet except through a womb right now. I mean,
Mm,
science is trying to figure it out, but we carry life. We are I think what will shift this paradigm for us, we've got this patriarchal, male dominated society that
right.
women are fighting for their right to even just exist and to have autonomy over their bodies. So we've
Mhm.
shifted over here. The other shift is now women are becoming more aware of our power and how we can affect change. But we have to be healed in order to do that in a good way so that we're not reactive, but we're moving from a space of wholeness, from our divine feminine aspect of who we are. And how does that look? How does that look and how does that feel for us? Because we haven't had examples in this society of women in power, in their fullness, in their full embodied self, and what that looks like. And I think we're
Mhm.
exhibiting that now. And that's what this podcast does. It's helping women to remember our divinity,
Yes.
remember all of who we are. But we've got to be hydrated in order to
Mhm.
really fulfill that. So we're not operating out of our pain, but out of our power and what that looks like. So we're
Yeah.
still discovering that. We're still becoming. We're still
Mhm.
becoming. We're still becoming.
Yes, I can agree with that. And I hear what you're saying
Mhm.
on the fullness. We've seen the ladies in leadership go through some transitions in the last few years, so I've been thinking
Yes.
about the hundreds of thousands of women who have been reconstructing what it looks like to provide for their families.
Mhm.
I've been thinking about the
Absolutely.
higher education and the support and the fire that burns in educators to help make sure that the next generation has what they need and how those women can show up in a whole way. So I hear what you're saying.
Mhm. Well,
You
we're
think?
in the middle of a deconstructing. I mean, the whole society is being he's just burning it all down from the White House on. He's just tearing it all up. But the good news is that it's too to me, it's too soon to judge because
Oh,
on the other side of that, we're gonna have to build something different.
mhm.
We're gonna have to build something different. So we have to be hydrated and ready to build something different.
Yes.
I can't remember what tradition of storytelling it's out of, what culture it comes from, but there's a story, it's like a fable that was talking about a farmer, and, you know, his cow got stolen, and the neighbor's like, well, that's bad luck. And he goes, well, maybe, maybe not.
Maybe
And the
not.
next day, the cow came back with a friend, and he had two cows. And his friend was like, well, that's great news. And he's like, well, maybe, maybe not. And I'm probably telling the story out of order, but, his, son broke his leg, And the neighbor was like, "Oh my God, this is horrible. This is a tragedy." It's like, maybe, maybe not. And the next day,
Mhm.
the army came by, but didn't take
Mhm.
his son because his son has broken his leg. And, so that whole thing about we
Yes.
don't know yet, maybe,
Yes. Too soon to
maybe
judge.
not, right?
Mm.
We don't know which way, but being present to our breath right now, that really spoke
Yes.
to me when you said that about just going back to the basics. And we talk about that often here, right?
Yes.
We
Mhm.
talk about putting our feet in the grass and listening to the birds. And I think it's important that we talk about it because these are
Yes.
big, complex things. And
Mhm.
the
Yes.
getting back to basic is what's going to keep us well resourced in order to address them.
And
So,
also understanding and really having discernment around what is ours to carry, what is collectively for us to carry, and what do we need to give to divine source? What is God's to carry? So if you trying to carry something that's supposed to be in God's basket or the community's basket, you are going to get burned up and
Yes,
drained
quick.
because it's
Mhm.
not yours to hold.
Mm.
It
we
is
say in
ours to hold.
interplay, right? We say in interplay, there are many stories that are too big for one body to hold, that
Absolutely.
it's a
That's the truth.
community carrying. And so I love the way you're saying that, which the basket, and our bodies are our basket, right? So where
Mhm.
we putting this stuff? So I love that.
Absolutely. And
Right.
you gotta have room in your basket.
Mhm.
You gotta be hydrated to hold this. Most of us again are burnt out because we are dehydrated. And I can't emphasize that enough because that's the key. It's nothing wrong with you. You just need some you need to get hooked back up into source so that they can drip back the remembrance of who you are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Niambi, every week we talk about wisdom in action, and this
Mhm.
is in hopes to continue the conversation on how to maintain our wellness, right? You can get back here, we'll get back to the drips, and then after you've been dehydrated and you're back on the drip, how do we stay there so we don't dry back up, so we don't go back into our old habits, right? For you, for your spiritual wellness, what are you intentionally working on for your wisdom in action?
Hmm. For me, I'm working on moving my body more.
Mm.
Just moving my body more.
Mhm,
Putting that putting joy in my own body
mhm.
so that I can remember that I am a creative being that
Yeah,
moves and has that, you know, yeah. For me, it's movement. It's remembering to move my body, to not get stuck, to walk outside, to do all those things.
I've
And
been working on
thankful that
this.
I can walk outside.
Right?
Yes, so
Right?
great. Yes. What about you, Christine? You wanna go next, or you want me to go next?
I want you to go next.
Okay, I got you. I've been writing down hashtags because this has been really good, right? Um, for mine, I will say and I have a couple, I'll give you 2 of them that I wrote down. I'll give you 3 of the ones that I wrote down, okay? We'll start with hashtag stillness and hydration. I've been
Mm,
Mm,
working on that, and I noticed that I
yes.
was drinking my water, coffee was
mhm.
gone, water wasn't gone. Second water bottle didn't get to the second water bottle. I was looking at that, right? And,
Mhm,
recently, since now I work 9 to 5, I was like, "What time am I gonna get up?" I had a month to get used to it. I needed to add an extra hour, so I was going even slower in the morning, so I felt like I have even more space. So stillness and hydration. I also have quiet the noise. I love how you said that. And then
mhm,
hashtag pause in the presence. All of that
mhm,
together. I've had these alarms that are going off and 10:30 just says remember. Remember
mhm,
Mhm.
what? Remember what was your intention for the day? I want to think about the stardust this week.
mhm,
Just remember that it's going to be okay. You have everything you need. And in the
mhm,
presence of the moment, that asking what's going on and is what you're thinking true now? What do I need to do to
mhm,
respond? What's the best next the next best thing for me to do?
mhm.
I think all of those will keep me in a
Absolutely.
really good place spiritually.
Yes.
Mm. Mm. What about you, Christine?
Oh, well, I am a lucky duck this week because
Mm.
this is one of my spring retreats with women
Yes.
I've been retreating with for 30 years.
Mhm.
And so I'm gonna drip, 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 and jump into the pool is what I'm gonna do.
I love
Because
that. Jump into
I'm
the
going to
pool.
hang out with my mentors, and so I did hashtag remember because that's
Mm.
always when I go back to this retreat center with these women. I met them when I was 24, and so I have been with them. I mean, they have been with me through, you know, children and deaths in the family, and I mean, they're my people and have been,
Yeah.
and restore. I put hashtag restore and oh, I did put hashtag pause because that's what this all of
Yes.
that this weekend, like,
Yes.
I will have a chance and to do those things, and I'm grateful. And
Yeah.
even the drive there, that was part of my decision to make the drive is some people are freaking out because but I'm from Texas, so we drive. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, it's and
Mhm.
I'm like, "Oh, wow, I actually love it. Give me a good road trip,
Yeah.
right?" And
Right.
it gives me a
Yes.
chance to pause. I always, when I'm driving, wanna and I don't drive a lot anymore because of the fact that I work from home. But
Right.
anytime
Yeah.
I'm driving, that's one of my chances to check in with spirit because 'cause I'll have my conversations, I'll have my prayers, and they'll
Mhm.
ask, "Who do you want me to talk to?" And I'll
Mhm.
let that come. Who do I need to reconnect with? And it's
Absolutely.
always magical. It is really magical.
Yes. That's
Yes.
beautiful. I'm so glad you get to go. We have a comment here.
I love it.
Let's see.
Sh
Sequestra.
Sequestra.
Yes,
Mhm.
Thank
Sequestra,
you,
y'all, says,
Sequestra.
"Restoring the Light is a powerful and insightful book that gently guides you into a deeper relationship with your soul through thoughtful questions and journal prompts. It offered me real comfort as I faced and made peace with my shadow side, allowing me to not only understand it, but to embody and integrate it as a meaningful part of who I am."
Oh,
Ooh, I
thank you.
love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, Niambi. I have
You are so
thoroughly
welcome.
enjoyed, yes, our conversation. I know actually, I was gonna ask you if you had anything else, but I know that you had a giveaway that you wanted to give
Mhm.
our listeners. Can you tell
I
them about the
do.
offerings on your website, where to find you, and what you have for them listening to Women Connected in Wisdom today?
All right, real quick. I've talked about the book, and Sequestra just mentioned the book Restoring the Light. But I have an offer that with the book, there's a 21-day reset journey. It's not a challenge, it's a journey. And I break down the prayer in small little micro bites, little bites that you can do. It's in a protected community, and I offer that. It's usually $21, so it's $1 a day. But I know people are in need right now. Gas is up, everything is up, everything is the world's on fire. So for until May 1st, it's absolutely free to all of your listeners. And so all you have to do is go to my website or go send me an email or go to the website, but make sure you indicate that you heard about it with Women Connected in Wisdom. And then that will give you free access until May. If you sign up before May. Now after May 1st, it'll be $21. But right now you can get in on the community and it's you won't be kicked out after May 1st. You're there as long as you need it.
Thank
Thank
There
you
for
you
as
for that.
long
so
as you
much. And y'all, we will put all that in the show notes. So if you're driving or listening while you're jogging, just go to
Mm.
womenconnectingwisdompodcast.com and it'll be in the show notes. And now, Niambi, what is the best way for folks to reach you if they want to work with you, if they want to see all these awesome books? We'll have links in the show notes to purchasing the books, but what's the easiest way for people to connect with you?
Um, the easiest would be through my website, which is niambijaha.com. You can also reach me through my school, the earthpurpose.org. Will also have a lot of the connections. But those two kind of, overlap with each other. So you can go to niambijaha.com and then that could also lead you back to the school, which has a whole bunch of other offerings as well.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I
Yes.
am just so delighted. You mentioned it when you first came on, but we met at Wellspring, not Wellspring,
Yes.
Wind Call. We
Well,
met at Wind
Winston.
Call because both of us are coaches for Wind Call. I'll make
Yeah.
sure and put that in our show notes too.
Mm,
And I am just so grateful that we're connected and that
Yes.
you're sharing your wisdom with our community. And
mm.
I'm just delighted about this conversation today. Thank you so much.
Yes. Well, thank you and Shannon both. This has been delightful, and I'm so grateful that you embraced me and my babies, my all of like
Absolutely.
Octomom.
We believe it,
Yes.
babies. We
Yeah.
believe it. And be sure and tag us on socials and we'll share it with all our folks.
Absolutely.
So they make sure they
Absolutely.
see what's happening. But all
Yes.
right, until next
All
time, friend,
right.
thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh, so good.
I
So good.
know.
I think we
Spiritual
could talk to
wellness.
her for hours.
Oh, we could. Like, when we have this retreat, I don't know, we're gonna have to figure out, like, usually the retreats have a meeting room, it's fun.
Mhm.
Ours is gonna be, like, really, really good, we need some
Oh
time to
my
just talk.
gosh.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I'm
So
glad
good.
you ladies are connected.
Right? And now you're connected and now all our people are connected. That's the way I love,
Yes.
when we talk about this, about how it works. And
Yeah.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
All right, friend, what do we need to shout out to our listeners before we close episode 223? We have some exciting things going on.
Yeah, we do. So, y'all, if you've been listening, we told you that the doors were about to close, right? We told you volume 3 is open, doors are open. We have a goal of 24 authors. We have people who are saying yes, and we wanted you to know that you have a little more time. So if
Volume
you're
3 is
hemming and
coming.
hawing, right, you feel called, go ahead and put your information in, fill out the interest form, and let us know what you would like to write about. If you have somebody that you've been talking to, let them know they have a little more time, right? Let's get them on the volume so that we can share their stories and share their resources and make sure that the world has access to them when they need it.
Right? I am so excited about this cohort. We have
Yes.
some
Oh,
incredible authors,
yeah, we do.
incredible from different ages, different races, different backgrounds. It's coming together beautifully, y'all. So you will be well supported not only by us, but by your fellow authors and
Yeah, authors and narrators,
right? Who are going through this journey with us and speaker. Oh my God, it's
all
so
of
good. I can't wait. I can't wait. You know,
Right.
so this is when Naomi talks about being pregnant with a book, right?
Yeah.
We are in that, we are intentionally creating this. So we're in that excitement phase and we've started to dream about the colors of the nursery and
Mhm. The cover, what does it look like?
oh
What's
my
the chapter designs?
gosh.
I
What's
know,
the
I know.
theme? What's the
I
oh my gosh,
know.
I love it
But
so
what's the
much.
poetry in between the chapters? That's what I've been thinking about too.
Right?
Yeah, it's gonna be
Ooh.
good.
What's the oh, yeah, it's gonna be I'm thrilled.
Me
So,
too.
mm,
Yeah. Anything else that we have to tell everybody this week?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think that, you know, it's we are gonna have a couple of guest, co-hosts in April,
Mhm.
and, that's gonna be fun for our
Yes.
listeners because I am taking off for a wind call, artist in residency retreat. And so you'll be here holding it down. Thank
I
you
got
so
you.
much. And
Absolutely.
I will look forward to being back at the end of April. And
Yeah.
yeah, but I think we're planning on seeing each other next week. We
Yeah.
really didn't make that decision before the show, but I think we're live next week at
Oh,
5.
that's a good point. We didn't make that decision, did we?
And right, but
We'll let you
if
guys
we're not, we'll
let's
let you
see.
know on socials and we'll
Yeah,
hook you up to some previous episodes.
we
But
got you.
you've got 223 to choose from. So,
Mhm. Yes, yes. So, y'all, as always, looking forward to staying connected, you getting connected to those resources. We'll see you soon. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. Talk to you later.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. On air live on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern via Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation and get connected at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.